Recording in progress.
Hi, welcome everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. We've got a few people still coming in. Welcome to today's webinar, everyone. Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar about the Science Discovery on Main Street grant program. We'll go ahead and get started. So this webinar is being recorded, so you all will be able to view this later. We'll have it posted on our website, and it'll be distributed to all registrants. Right now, you all are muted and should remain muted, but if for some reason you come off of mute, please mute yourself. Closed captioning is available. You'd need to click enable or disable on the menu bar at the bottom that says show captions based on your preferences. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. You're welcome to use the chat, but we do have a Q&A feature where we can talk with you and answer questions directly. And then please know we may not be able to answer all of your questions during this time on our call, either because it's something very specific to your community or if we just don't have time. If your question is not answered, please email us at sciencediscovery@mainstreet.org or call the phone number listed here, which you'll see again in other parts of the presentation. So on today's call, you'll hear more from me. I'm Tia Weiss, Associate Manager of Strategic Projects at Main Street America, where I manage the Science Discovery on Main Street program, along with a few of our other programs and initiatives. Liz Shank, you will not see her on the call, but you probably will hear from her in the chat and in the Q&A. She's our Senior Manager of Marketing and Outreach at Main Street America. You'll hear from Yvette Modanu, of the Simons Foundation, and Elizabeth Smolke of the Simons Foundation as well. And so a quick overview of what we'll do today on the call is after the welcome from me, which is this, and then the Simons Foundation, you'll hear a bit more about the program, including what we mean by science assets, and then some important considerations and things to know. You'll learn more about the eligibility, the scoring criteria or evaluation criteria we're using, the application process itself, and then we'll have time for questions. And so with that, I will turn it over to my colleagues at Simons Foundation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us to be involved this morning, or I should say this afternoon. My name's Yvette Modanu, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of leading our Science, Society and Culture division here at the Simons Foundation. This is all about place and hometown, so this is where we're based in New York City. It's lovely to see some familiar names in the chat as well who partnered with us on the Eclipse program. Here at the Foundation, we're really interested in thinking about how we can provide or create opportunities for people to engage with science in ways that are meaningful to them. And we embarked on a partnership with Main Street America and a number of communities to celebrate earlier this year the total eclipse of the sun. And what we learned through that program is actually there's a lot of science that's already happening in communities. It may not be called science, but it's there, and people are developing these programs and engaging their communities. And we felt that it was really important to create a program that formalized that and actually allowed people to talk more and explore more about how science shows up in their community, and really focusing on residents as well, similar to what we did in our previous work. So I work very closely with Elizabeth Samolki, who is also on the call, and I'm going to hand over to Elizabeth to talk a little bit about what excites her about this program also.
Hi, everyone. Like Yvette mentioned, I'm part of the Simons Foundation, and I am based here in New York City working with Yvette. I'm originally from North Carolina and from like a really rural part of the state, Saxbahaw. And so this particular program has always been really exciting to me because I see a lot of my personal experience reflected in the conversations that happen and these smaller Main Street organizations and communities. I'm most excited for this program because I think, like Yvette mentioned, there's going to be a lot of space and time to really discover what makes your science assets unique and special to your communities, and sort of finding ways to celebrate them, I think is really amazing. And then also Tia at just providing cohort support. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Okay. Thank you both so much. And thank you again for your support for this program and for Main Street communities across the country. And so, as you've probably seen on our website or heard from, or seen from the marketing, this program provides funding and support to help rural Main Street communities research, identify, and celebrate their unique scientific assets or history through partnerships and programming. This is a wonderful opportunity to explore science engagement activities. And again, we thank our partners in this. This is funded through a generous grant from the Simons Foundation International that's administered by the Simons Foundation Science Society and Culture Division. I'm working to go to my next slide. And so you heard from the Simons Foundation already, so I won't repeat everything that's on this slide. But one thing I will say that Elizabeth alluded to is that this program is designed for you all as Main Street communities to prepare and plan to actively engage residents in science as a part of your community program. And it's offering an opportunity for the grantee communities to directly connect with other Main Streets across the country as you research and explore science assets and ideas and related programming in your districts. And so about the program, the communities can apply for one of 12 discovery grants of $12,500. Over 6 months with these discovery grants, you'll have an opportunity to complete an asset mapping and community engagement process to research, explore, and identify those local science assets, some of which you may have already identified, some of which you may not be sure whether or not it's a science asset, or some that where you maybe don't have any idea at all if it's a science asset, or if you have one in your town that you'd like to highlight. You will have support in this asset mapping and community engagement process. And then you'll have an opportunity to come up with plans and ideas and potential activities that you could do around the different assets. And then after the discovery period, after that 6-month period, there will be an opportunity for up to 7 communities to receive implementation grant funds to put those plans into action over the course of 12 months. During this process, as we mentioned before, grantees will receive additional one-on-one technical assistance, participate in those cohort and learning connection opportunities, and one person from the Main Street organization will be supported to attend the Main Street Now conference in Philadelphia that will be in April of 2025 for a convening of the Science Discovery on Main Street grant recipients. It'll be a convening, a workshop where you'll have a chance to meet in person and learn, network, and share ideas. And
I didn't get that.
Oops, Siri. And so what do we mean by science assets?
11:11 a.m.
Historical events, scientific events or innovations with scientific significance, birthplaces or homes of famous or even lesser known scientists who were either born in or lived in your town at some point, unique natural phenomena, special geographical features, maybe they're unique local agricultural products that you have in your town that have unique biological aspects, or maybe they're just unique opportunities and ideal conditions for scientific activities like stargazing and solar observation. One thing we do want to note for you, though, is that scientific assets and themes that are not a specific target of this program are local present day or historic community ties to specific industries, even industries with unique scientific processes. We know there are lots of opportunities to explore things there, but just wanted to highlight that for you and the items listed here. And so a couple of examples of science assets and activities. There's Miss Texas, which it was designated by the Texas State Legislature as the official home of the official Texas Bluebonnet Trail, and they're designated as the official Bluebonnet City of Texas. They showcase over 40 miles of map driving Bluebonnet trails that's sponsored by the Ennis Garden Club. I see somebody from the chat is represented. Hi, represented from Ennis. And they celebrate the Bluebonnet flower of Texas with the Ennis Bluebonnet Trails and Festival. They also highlight the flower through other places and activities in town as well. So this is one example of a unique natural phenomena that could be leveraged for additional scientific exploration and activities. Another example is Excelsior Springs, Missouri, and its mineral waters is a special geographical feature, and it has. Their Chamber of Commerce hosts an annual Water Fest as a signature event. It's a celebration that started as a celebration of the town's natural mineral water heritage. They do have other year-round sites and activities that residents and visitors can engage in, including a Hall of Waters, Excelsior Springs Museum and Archives, and then several water pagodas that mark historic well sites, such as the Superior Well Pagoda pictured here. Again, another example of an asset that could be leveraged for additional science activities. For some other ideas, we do have from last year a wonderful blog that was published on our site that featured Hendersonville, North Carolina's activities around Earth Day. We have Los Alamos, New Mexico, which is mentioned on the website for this grant program, as well as in the blog, specifically about what they do using their scientific significance and history to instill community pride with a whole host of scientific activities that they do through a really wonderful festival. And then the example of Sweetwater, Tennessee, that really took advantage of the eclipse that came through in 2017 as, you know, kind of a celestial event, a phenomena, but to get people really excited about what was happening, as did our eclipse grantees earlier this year. And so tying this to the Main Street approach, we've mentioned that communities will receive professional support on how to create fun, kind of engaging creative activities around science. This ties directly to that promotion point of the 4 points in our Main Street approach. I do want to say that as a part of the grant, a limited part of the funding would be able to be used specifically for branding and marketing. So again, there's lots and lots of opportunities to use the grant and the opportunity to explore the opportunities and create really fun, engaging activities. And so you all are familiar with this. I will not, most of you on the call are familiar with this, the Main Street 4-point approach, where promotion there, again, positions your downtown as a center of the community, and all the fun activities you can do, and what that does for your Main Street. And so one of these considerations I mentioned before, but some other ones that you've heard already on the call for this program, we really do want folks to consider having a strong focus on activities to benefit residents. It's not to say none of the activities can benefit tourists and tourism, but if you could make sure that the focus is on residents. The activities should be free and open to the public or low cost. As I mentioned before, expenses for branding specifically should be 10% for marketing, branding, and related activities. None of the funding may be used in activities for this grant program on political or fundraising activities. And then, as I mentioned before, currently not looking for those local or present day ties to local industries. If you have any questions about these or think something may or may not fit in one of these categories, but you're not sure, feel free to reach out to sciencediscovery@mainstreet.org or give us a call. And so one last thing I'll say is we considered all of those really cool science assets, some of which I didn't even mention there, gravity hills. I know a number of you pursue recreation strategies where you've got these really beautiful, unique trails and vistas. I want to remind everyone this program is open to all applicants, including those who do not have a science asset currently identified. All communities, even those who do have those assets identified, will go through a discovery process to see what else you may find and uncover about your town through that work. Okay, for the eligibility and evaluation criteria, communities must be designated Main Street America communities. That means an affiliate or accredited community. You must be located in a rural area and have a population of 50,000 people or less. We're looking for communities with a commitment to creating science engagement opportunities for residents through their Main Street organization and or by leveraging partnerships. And then we ask that organizations applying have an annual operating budget of less than $1 million. The scoring criteria or the evaluation criteria is we're going to be looking at community need. Communities will need to demonstrate a strong need for funding based on their organizational budget and community demographics. We're looking for a commitment to exploring science and participating in science engagement for your Main Street, even beyond the grant period, and the commitment to prioritizing a focus on residents and science education, in addition to activities that may attract tourists. We're looking at sustainability and feasibility. Again, commitment to science activities beyond the initial grant period and the capacity to do that. An organization that's ready and has a committed person or persons and team ready to take this on. And then finally, we're looking at partners, engagement, and resources, folks who really are open to working with partners, existing partners and other additional provided partners if needed. And then especially those looking to and interested in working with science institutions, scientists, and or science engagement experts. And so one other note, we are looking for folks who are enthusiastic and again, looking to develop fresh approaches to community identity and programming, potentially looking to promote scientific curiosity in residents and visitors, and looking forward to breathing new life into downtown areas and public spaces using science. For the application process, the application is now open and is open through January 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. All application activity, it happens on our secure platform that we use here at Main Street America for all of our application programs, Submittable. And the application requests basic organizational information. There are a number of questions about your interest in the program, experience with events, with some uploads and other requests. And so a little bit more about Submittable for those of you who have not used the platform before. To get started, you'll need to create a login, or you can use a previous account. You can use an existing Submittable account by logging in. And we do ask that when creating a login, that you use an email address that you monitor, because occasionally updates will come from Submittable to that email address. Even if you enter another email address into the application, it's oftentimes the email address associated with the overall account that may get some of the high-level notifications from Submittable. You will be able to add collaborators to your application. You'll see a Manage Collaborators hyperlink at the top of the application form that allows you to invite colleagues and partners to join in the application. Collaborators will also need to create a Submittable account. And for the questions that you'll see on the application form, we ask for name and contact information. We do ask that you provide your Main Street America member number. If you have questions about your member status or need that application number, you can contact our membership department, whose email address and phone number is listed there. You can email us at Science Discovery and we'll loop you right in with our membership department. Other questions we ask about your organization is about staffing. How many staff does your organization have, full-time or part-time? How would you ensure the continuity of the program should the person leading or you leave your position? And whether your organization has completed a transformation strategy or some kind of strategic plan, and mostly for the understanding of how this program or opportunity may fit into those larger goals that you have for your district. For science engagement in your community, we ask you what interests or excites you in your community most about this grant program, whether or not you've identified a potential or known science asset. And again, this is not required, but we'd love to hear and see what you all are thinking about and considering as science assets. And we ask, has your organization, with or without partners, done educational activities in the past for any age group or science events in the past? Again, that's not required, but just interested in where and how people are coming to and starting on their journeys. And so questions we ask about the community is we ask you to describe your community. We ask about the population size, community demographics, a little more information about how you've engaged your community in organizing events and a festival. And if there's somebody you have already identified who's going to be the key contact and sponsor for the grant. For partners, engagement, and resources leveraged, we ask what local partners or institutions you would like to work with on this project, or if there are ideal partners and collaborators you would like to work with. These could be local folks, these could be other people you've heard about that you would like to work with, or you could say, we really don't know, but we want to get a sense of what local partners, if any, you may work with. Hopefully you'll think about what folks locally you could partner with on this. We ask, how might this project help your organization build relationships with new partners and community members? Again, is there someone in your community who will or could serve as an ambassador for science? Yes, no, whether you're unsure about that, and whether you're interested in longer term science programming activities and initiatives. We do ask that you upload at least one photo of your downtown and commercial district. And then we ask that you upload other photos that you would like us to consider as a part of your application. Even though just the photo of your district is required, we would love to see as many photos as you would like to share of your district, of different events you've done, of the science asset, if you have one already identified. And then we have space for you to share your organization's website or social media pages if you'd like. We ask about your financial information, including your budget. And then we just want to make sure that you realize that there would be a final report that's due on August 29th, 2025, making sure that you're aware of that requirement, and then whether there's any additional information you would like for the panel to consider. And before you close out, we will have some storytelling as a part of this grant program, including documenting parts of the journey. And so we just have whether you're willing to be interviewed and or have our planning and activities documented by a film crew. Again, we mentioned that final report, and I need to double check the date on this because I think on the last slide I had the 29th, so we'll make sure we get that date right and update it in the application form. And then we have another agreement that you're willing to have someone participate in the cohort activities in the Main Street Now conference in Philadelphia, including that science discovery on Main Street workshop. And we have the option for you to opt in to receiving more news for Main Street America. Some key dates. The applications are now open and they close January 3rd, that Friday, at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. We plan to announce the recipients in mid to late February and have an introductory call with grantees that is required by the end of February. In March, the monthly cohort calls will begin. You're strongly encouraged to attend those. And then the grantee convening. And the 6th is here. The 6th is here because I think that's a day where some people come into the conference early. But we'll send the exact date of the grantee convening and workshop at the conference. But know that you will, that grantees will receive support for attending the conference. And then by the end of August, that's the end of the 6-month discovery grant period where the report would be due, and along with your next steps for what you might like to do for implementation if that is something you choose to pursue. And then September 2025 to September 2026 would be the implementation period. And so with that, I did see there was some activity in the chat already about questions. And I also saw that a few people submitted questions via the registration form. So I'll go back to those. And I see there's also a hand raised. So I think what we'll do first is start with Liz, if you're still there in the background. Are there any questions that you've seen in the chat that we should?
Sure thing. So I'll just go in order that they came in. The first one is from Tammy Plein, and she asks, do you provide feedback to applications that are not selected?
So we haven't, I don't think we will provide feedback to applications that aren't selected. However, what we are hoping is that by documenting parts of the process as communities are on their journey, and some of the ways that people have found to partner with local resources that everyone may have in their local communities, or other local institutions or regional institutions, we're hoping that those would be opportunities for people to also kind of go on their own journeys exploring their science assets, even if they're not selected for the grant program.
Great. The next one is from Jamie. They ask, our Main Street program is part of our local government economic development department. Would the city be eligible to apply on behalf of our Main Street program? Oh, and there's some additional details here. If so, our budget would exceed 1 million.
So we'd be looking at your Main Street organization's budget and what your operating budget is for the year. We do know a number of our communities are part of a larger their Main Street program is within a city or a municipality, which of course has a much larger budget. So we would be considering your Main Street budget, but also other things related to your community and the community need that you demonstrate through the application.
Perfect. The next one is from Mandy. She asks, is this opportunity only open to towns themselves, or can downtown businesses apply as well?
So this is open to the Main Street organization and the Main Street entity. So Main Street businesses I know would participate, you know, kind of as stakeholders in the community who might be interested in what's happening with these science activities, or they may want to get involved. But it would need to be the Main Street entity itself, which, you know, I understand could be a nonprofit, it could be a municipality, it could have some other type of organizational structure, but it does have to be an affiliate or accredited Main Street organization.
Perfect. Okay, so the next one is from Ken. He asks, so my Main Street is a quasi, so I work in the city. So I would exceed the 1 million, but if you count just my budget, I would qualify. How would this work?
So I think that's similar to the previous question, where we would be looking at the budget for your Main Street program itself, and what resources your Main Street program relies on to do your programming and activities through the year, and which would just be one budget line item in that larger city budget. But we would also be looking at the other community need that's demonstrated. And so, yeah, first and foremost, we'd be looking at your organizational or department budget.
Perfect. Okay, so the next one is from Mark Brown. He asks, we are a not-for-profit public outreach organization at a university that would like to work through our Main Street to expand our outreach capacity and opportunities. Do we, as a university entity, apply for the grant, or should our local Main Street partner apply for the grant?
The local Main Street partner would need to apply, and it's important to have them ask, you know, are they affiliate or accredited? And if they have any questions about that, they can contact the membership department.
Great. Then the next one is from Michael Collantine. Would these grants be applicable to the design and development of a children's STEM museum?
They would not be directly related to to the design or those sorts of things related to a children's science museum. However, you know, that if that is another project your community is pursuing, there's potentially an opportunity through these other things that you discover through this process of what local science assets there are that might be, I don't know, features or something that you could leverage towards that that separate proposal. I hope that answered your question.
Perfect. Thanks, Tia. Okay, the next one is from Tasha Wade. When you mention science, are you referring to specifically to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math? If so, I wonder if we could incorporate an engineering component. Our Main Street is uniquely situated with the Nooksack River running right through the middle of it, offering plenty of opportunities for innovative ideas and activities. However, given that we experienced significant flooding during some years, engineering could play a critical role in addressing this challenge. There's so much potential to tie these elements together in a meaningful way.
So that's a great question. So as it stands now, we're not accepting applications related to, you know, as we mentioned before, local industries, engineering, things like that specifically. And one thing I'm realizing we didn't have on there was climate and climate resiliency. I think was another thing we discussed internally that we would not be funding specifically through the project, though there are probably elements of science and science-related activities that would qualify. But again, if your community has that, you know, natural asset there, I would still encourage you to apply, because again, part of the process is looking at the assets that are there and maybe some of the creative ways science programming could be used or come together, again, based on the local partners up that you have available, and then some other regional partners and resources that that we hope to bring to bear. So I hope that answered your question. And if it didn't, feel free to email or call me.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so the next question is from Dave Dooley. Please expand on the exclusion of local industry. Is this to keep it from being an infomercial?
Well, that's a good question. I think, yeah, the connection to local industries, I think, is tough. And if there's, a specific example you have, you're welcome to email us about it. But I think that because some things could be tied to specific companies, I think it just makes things a little more complicated when it comes to like a general the general science discovery mission that we have. And that's not to say, again, that in going through this process that there may be ways that local communities may then find creative ways to further partner or think about science and connections to local industries, but that's not the focus of this program, I think, just because yeah, I think of it, it gets a little interesting when it comes to affiliations potentially with specific companies.
Great. The next one is from John McCollum. He says, we develop traveling exhibits that may go to rural communities. Will these qualify for MSA communities?
The communities may be able to apply, but the traveling exhibit itself would not be eligible. However, it would be, a wonderful resource and partner that we hope the communities in the program could leverage. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Okay, we have another question about engineering from Nolan Ojeda. Hope I got that name right. Can you expand on the engineering exclusion? We have a huge space/military community here in Alamogordo, including the Trinity site. Would this mean STEM is excluded from the grant program?
I wouldn't say so. STEM isn't excluded from the grant program, but I think some ties to, I think, specific local companies just kind of complicates the focus on the mission of the program. But if you wouldn't mind, send me an email to say a little bit more about what that institution is or that you'd mentioned. Yeah, and like I said, yeah, it's that what we're hoping is that communities will leverage. We know there are lots and lots and lots of opportunities, and even more opportunities when it comes to potentially partnering with local industries, looking into things like engineering and manufacturing processes and innovations around things like that. But for this particular program, we're focusing on a different set of science assets, which would hopefully still excite folks and then maybe open their minds up to and increase their interest in potentially moving into other areas of science too. So feel free to send me an email or give me a call.
Great. The next one is from Erica Vincent Ondeco. She asks, logistically, does the $12,000 grant go to the implementation phase recipients, or is the initial funding for the research aspect of the discovery grant?
So the $12,500 is for the discovery grant period, and it's going to help cover in part somebody who could help facilitate a process with you in a community engagement process. That could be someone locally, that could be you, and staff time included in that too. And then there would be additional separate funding for the implementation grant.
Perfect. The next question is from Allison Watkins. She asks, we already have a large annual science event that Main Street puts on in our community. Would we be eligible for the grant, or is it for new projects and events only?
So you would qualify. We would ask that you go on the discovery process to see what it is that you find locally that you might want to explore or dig deeper into, or find creative ways to do and plan activities around. But yeah, that science festival event sounds like a great thing, an asset that already exists that would definitely be something that additional activities could be plugged into.
Great. Couple more questions. We have one from Daphne Mays. She asks, who participates in the discovery process? Is that organized and led through and with the science discovery staff? Is there a budget if chosen for the implementation phase, or is that part of the $12,500 funding?
Yep. And so to answer the second part of your question, there would be a larger grant amount available for the implementation grant portion. And so the 12,500 is for the discovery process. The way, and know that I do remember there was one question we got through the registration form asking for examples of other projects people have done through this program. Please know that we're we're designing this in real time with our partners at the Simons Foundation. And so I'll say what we've envisioned this to be is an opportunity for staff for the $12,500 discovery grant. Staff would be able to dedicate some of their time using those funds. Funds could be used towards bringing on a planner or facilitator or somebody locally who'd be excited about working on this discovery process and kind of bringing community members together around either identifying what the assets may be that people know about or may not quite yet know about, have opportunities for people to get together to discuss them, go see them together if they're outside of the downtown district, and activities like that. Potentially for if you have an existing event, testing out some things in those existing events with the funds and things like that. So I hope that answered your question. But if it didn't, please feel free to send me an email or give me a call.
Great. We have one more question at this point from Lynn Aventino, and they ask, could you give an example again of what an asset is? We love science programming in our community events, but not sure we have an asset.
Yeah. And so I'll say I encourage you to apply simply for your enthusiasm of science and your interest in exploring the idea of a science asset. Some of the things we listed were things like your town being a place where a scientist was, famous or lesser known scientist was born or lived. Maybe there's, a unique flower, a unique agricultural product that your town has. And then there are also ways we know that folks, just get creative and get people excited about science in in their towns. For some, it's utilizing spaces nearby and pursuing being a dark sky community where stargazers come from all around to see what's there, or finding some other sort of niche that UC residents get excited about that's about science that you could develop as we go along. So I would encourage you to apply, and definitely want to stress, and you'll see throughout the application that we stress, you do not have to have a science asset identified. This is about going on the journey and figuring out what ways you could just get residents excited about science in your town, maybe by leveraging a science asset that's there, or creating, some cool science activities in other ways.
Thanks, Tia. We have a couple of communications related questions that I can answer quickly. One from Kate Garcia. Will the recording be sent out to everyone who missed the webinar? Yes, absolutely. All registrants will get a link to the webinar recording and to the slide deck. We'll also add the webinar to our program landing page. So anyone who's interested in the program, whether they registered for the webinar or not, can access this recording. And then we also had someone ask, Shelly Ashcroft asked, would we be able to email out a fact sheet on the new grant opportunity so we can share it with our downtown members? We don't currently have a fact sheet developed, but we do have a landing page with everything you would need to know, including, like I said, the recording of this webinar. And we will definitely make sure you all have that link. I can drop it in the chat here shortly, and that's something you can easily email out to all your members. And then another question came in here for you from Dave Dooling. What kind of budget cap for an implementation plan?
So we think we would be able to provide up to double the amount for the implementation grants. And I know I'm not quite putting a number out there yet, but until we kind of announce that part. But it would be more funds and enough funds to implement your activities.
Perfect. Okay, that is all the questions we have. I do see we have an attendee with their hand raised. So Michael, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, so feel free to ask your question. Michael, you are currently unmuted, so go ahead whenever you're ready. Okay, we might be having some technical difficulties. We're not hearing you, Michael, but feel free to drop your question in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we can get to it that way.
Okay, and I'm taking a look at the questions that were on the, let's see, that were submitted through the registration form to see if there's anything we haven't covered. There was one question, are general Main Street members eligible? So Main Street members who are affiliates and accredited are eligible for the grant program. If you're not sure if you're an affiliate or accredited, you can reach out to the membership department and they can work with you on that. Let's see. I think, let's see, working with the partnership. I think that covers everything that we got through the registration form too. Okay. And did I see another hand go up?
Looks like that is still Michael's hand, but he did get back to us in the Q&A box and said that his question was answered previously.
Okay, great.
Just saw another hand go up. Mary Beth, was that you? Feel free to ask your question. Okay, we're not hearing you, but feel free to drop your question in the chat. Sorry about that. Not sure if that's an issue on our end or not. All right, any other questions? Okay, I don't think so, Sophia. We're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Liz. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming to today's webinar. You can find more information at mainstreet.org/science discovery. You can email sciencediscovery@mainstreet.org or the phone number that's here on the slide and is also listed on the website. So again, we look forward to seeing your applications and receiving the questions that you have moving forward. Thank you again for your time and have a good afternoon.